So this is a joint presentation with myself and Dave. A couple of years ago, actually I must be wearing this, I think. A couple of years ago, Hawaii, how you're supposed to say it, introduced a new range of balloons called NSL, and got quite interested because being interested in altitude, they said that they could realise a height of 45 kilometres or even 50 kilometres, which, hey, another 5 kilometres onto what we've done. So it's a range of balloons, and that the number at the end basically means the height that they sort of expect them to achieve with, I think, a standard payload weight. I asked them what NSL stood for the other day, but I framed it like, does NSL stand for Near Space Line? And they said yes.
I think it's after our flights and those sort of things.
No, could be, yeah. So there's a couple of features that make them unique. One is at the sheer size of the balloon. So it's an 8,000 gram balloon. I mean, the nearest one I know is 4,000 grams, and that's produced by Totex. They claim about the same burst altitude, but this must be a lot higher because if you can't achieve that altitude with a standard with a 15 kilometre balloon. So the other thing that's interesting about them, as you see from this photograph, is it's a balloon inside a balloon design. So they take a big balloon and they stuff it inside a small balloon. And this isn't a method of getting higher in general, it's just a method of constraining the size of the big balloon to be small when you launch it. So you can fill the balloon and you can get it out through standard filling station doors and then launch it. So there's a picture in China, I think, of them trying one. The other thing that's interesting about them is they have pre-fitted a valve in the neck, because I think it's to do with the fact that they've got a neck inside a neck, so they want to have like a pre-fitted valve so that the whole thing is standard. I mean, the valves are, this one on the left-hand side here is pretty standard on Totex balloons if you're also launching them. So actually, I think the Radiosonde chasers probably find quite a few of those. But the one on this one here, the bigger one, is what you get with the NSL-45. So I spoke to Dave about this and he was interested too. So that's when Team Pushing the Edge was formed. Envelope, Pushing the Envelope. I got it wrong, I said that before as well. So yeah, Pushing the Envelope was born. So the first thing that we did when we were preparing for our first flight was I made a filling attachment to plug in the bottom of the balloon to allow us to fill it, so we didn't have to modify it. So I made that, and then we went down to Dave's, and this was our first.
Is this the video?
This is the video, Dave. This is our first attempt. You notice that I'm wearing a matching two-piece. No, it's a flame retardant overalls and yeah. So let's see. We into the widescreen? Yes, here we go. So this is the fill. August, was it August last year, Dave? Yeah. So
notice all the cylinders.
Yeah, lots of cylinders of gas.
They're about 5 and a bit.
No. So
that's about the same.
This is a good point to stop it. So
I wish we had.
So one of the things that you'll notice about this balloon is it's got a heck of a lot of the internal balloon pushed against the outside balloon, and this basically makes it off balance. And we're normally used to the balloon sort of like going up and from the neck. Well, this basically makes it awkward. What you can do is once it's inflated a bit and upright, it's sort of like push the envelope and a bit of it will fall down, and that balances it a bit. But we're not used to it. It's an unusual thing. But anyway, let's go on from this point. So don't bear in mind that
Should we measure the cost at this point?
yeah, okay then. So
It's not cheap.
it's not cheap. I mean, we're talking over £1,000, well over £1,000 for a balloon. Oh, here we go. So yeah, it's worth watching that again. Nice duck and roll, Dave.
Go back a bit further to see.
I can't. Well, I could go. Yeah. Sorry, what do you want to go at?
Let's go back to where Greg was.
Oh yeah. Okay. So well,
Trying to see.
yeah. Let's wind back a bit then. So, what we've got got a combination of about 3 things that went wrong really. One is
Yeah, a bit further.
a bit further. Yeah, I can't. This thing's in the way. Don't know again.
Just click on the
Exit. No. Hydrogen.
Yeah.
Hence the red.
Hence the
Yeah.
red.
Hence the in a
Hence
flame
the
retardant
fire
suit. I can't get it to do it. Anyway, so we'll just have to go forward.
Okay.
But what the sequences of events were, we were filling the balloon. I was reasonably confident about wind directions coming, away from pushing it away from the fence. The gent that was looking after holding it back went off to get his camera, and at that instant, it decided it was going to lift off the mat.
And a bit of wind helped it as well.
Yeah, and the wind came in from a different direction. Basically, it suddenly came from a direction we weren't expecting.
But anyway, watch my roll.
Oh yeah, watch Dave's. Okay, let's. So you get the bang. It's another go at that. Here's another laugh.
So I thought I was going to get. I thought it was coming down on top of it, I think. But to be honest, I'm not sure. It will happen very quickly.
Dave sums it up in a minute when we turn the gas off, I think. Don't know if you can hear it.
Yeah.
He says, right. So, yeah, that was
We
entertaining.
did actually fly a balloon that day, but obviously not that one. Neither of those ones. I mean, when it went, I thought, I hope it's the outside one and the inside one's still okay.
So, for that little escapade, nil point. No, there's the whole lot.
That was what I was hoping.
Yeah.
In fact, I was kind of trying to see if I could save the inner balloon.
I think the only thing that we got out of that was to see how big the inner balloon was, because it sort of like shot out and stood up. But
I mean, at least we had the remnants of the way it did afterwards, so we knew a bit more about it. But that's an expensive flying out.
yeah. No, it was well burst. Yeah. So basically about a month later, Mark Deegan decided to launch the same type of balloon from North Wales. So we watched this flight with great interest to see whether or not we'd break the record.
So we were expecting to see in the ascent, you imagine this balloon that's round, but then when the other one goes, it's going to be a long, kind of big one shape thing. So I was expecting the ascent rate to kind of halt for a moment and then go back to normal. But it dropped. So the inner, actually, on the telemetry actually came down.
So that's the ascent rate there, and you can see this huge spike. This is where it dropped at 11 kilometres, 11.5 kilometres. So we assume that's where the outer balloon burst. And but otherwise, the ascent rate is pretty constant. So because the balloon is spherical almost the entire flight, because the inner balloon constrains it. So the outer balloon constrains it in the early parts of the flight because it's full. And then when that bursts, immediately the inner balloon inflates to spherical as well if you do the calculations. So it's spherical all the way up. It's just constrained a bit, to start with, and then when it bursts, it immediately expands to the fill. So yeah, they're more or less constant ascent rate all the way up. There's the ascent rate graph. Now you can see what happened with this flight is it floated. basically the ascent rate was too slow, and it just ended up floating and not achieving its maximum altitude. And there's sort of to get the maximum altitude out of one of these types of balloons is you need, if you put too little gas in, you will get exactly what happens here. It will end up going into a float and not achieving maximum altitude. If you put too much gas in, it will go up too fast and burst early and not achieve its maximum altitude. So you need to get in between those two, and you need to find that exact point to get the maximum out of them. So we looked at this graph, or I did, and calculated how much extra gas we thought we would need in order to achieve that perfect high altitude shot, based on our experiences with the Hawaii 1600 gram balloon. You know, we can see this type of profile on 1600 gram balloons and just look to see how much faster we needed to send it up. So we got that information really out of Mark's flight. So here's Mark's fill video, and notice he's going to shake the balloon to redistribute the weight, so he didn't really have the same problem as us. So one of the interesting things was we saw he had 2 bottles of water on here for measuring the amount of lift. Don't know what that noise is. Scary. He's taken the valves out, and the shaking, you can see, is now shaking the inner balloon down a bit to get it so it's a bit more, you know. And the other thing we worked out was he'd used 2 entire cylinders of gas. So
just under the 11.
Yeah. So we knew how much gas he'd used, how much neck lift he was going for.
There, it's got sliding.
Yeah, and that's after a lot of work. Oh yeah.
There's no way I would launch that. Anyway.
Well, yeah. The only thing I'll say is actually got a successful launch. So.
Yes.
Not that we were bitter at that point, no. So about a month after that, no, actually 2 weeks, I think it was. Oh yeah, okay. So we had a bit of a snoop around the internet. We found some information, I think, on IRC and some information about the size of the bottles and how much weight, you know, how big they were, and so you know, we sort of like worked it all out and thought, right, okay, we know where we're aiming for now in terms of you know, fill. So here comes PTE 2. As I say, this is probably one of the most interesting. It is the most interesting flight out of ours. Just before we get on to the video and stuff, things to note here is that I put up a windshield. You'll see that in the video in a minute. I used that originally for another flight, and it was really quite useful, even with, because it's such a big balloon. Even with trees, it's still not enough to sort of like shield it from the wind. So we put up a windshield as well. And again, we're still struggling with it being top heavy. I think because I was Hawaii's best customer for these balloons by far, they sent me one of these fill attachments for it. So this is like a specific thing. It is 1.5 kilos of brass, right? Solid brass. Don't ask me quite why. But anyway, brilliant. So it attaches, you push that tab in, and it sort of like locks the neck in place. So we was using that for this fill. So this is a time lapse of the fill. And so it's just so you'll see that's actually 2.5 meters aside, that windbreak. It'll give you an idea because of the size of the balloon when it's full. Again, you can see it's going to be off-centre. You can see all this mass at the bottom, which must be as they feed the balloon inside the other one, it all drops to the bottom.
I don't think that's right.
You were holding it and making sure it didn't go away and stuff. But yeah, I'm behind there somewhere with this attachment trying to fill it. And the real trouble was that because it was like going down, you couldn't just put the fill thing on the ground, which I think was what was originally intended, because it would sort of like cut the flow off. So I was having to hold it up, as well as struggle with this balloon that's off centre. But anyway, it gives you a bit of an idea about the size of the balloon. But the actual launch is pretty quick at the end of this. Sort of like, the good thing about that fill valve is you can literally attach everything to it and then go. You know, just pull the tab off and off it goes. So we had two different trackers on this. One Dave made, one I made, one was PIC-based, one was Raspberry Pi. I had an LAT, I think,
yeah, we had,
GPS.
The manufacturer says 45, maybe 50 kilometres, and the U-Blox tracks out for 50. So I bought an LAT, which is 80 kilometres long, and put it into the balloon bag. So we had, I just used that one with my Pi. So the Pi had that, and Steve had U-Blox on them. What can go wrong?
What can possibly go wrong? Two trackers, different people. Right, Dave, do you want to take over?
Yes. You need experienced people to do that. Oops. So yeah, so it stopped. So why did it stop? Let's have a look. That's an unusual shot to be seeing from a tracker that's supposed to be, 10 meters, 15 meters below a balloon. So basically what happened was the weight of the balloon made it tip up, so the filling valve was near the top. When I tied the my tracker on, I just kind of wrapped it around with the nylon thread. I should have taped it down and kept it solid, but basically we think it just kept bouncing against the balloon on the way up. So you get lovely shots like that, but it's above the halfway point on the balloon probably. On that one. Now that's the. Have to get that in. So mine then, I think it was about 30 something kilometres. Mine stopped altogether. So we're pretty sure it got broken apart and fell. It did fall off. We know later it fell off. Steve's tracker was still working, so that was okay, except that then was it by then or before?
It started at 20 kilometres.
20. So unfortunately, Steve's was saying, I'm not here, I'm here. And the altitude was locked as well, if I remember rightly. So we didn't have any updates on that. So at this point, how are we going to find that balloon? Well, let's see. So that was the prediction we had. So yeah, so 35 kilometres was the last altitude for mine. So that, if you like, is one data point. Yep. So we all run our predictions before the flight, and they're within 5 miles radius roughly of where it's going to land. I wouldn't like to try and search a 5-mile radius area, not knowing where the balloon is in that. So, but we can do better. So my first thought was we can, if we wait till it bursts, you can hear that, especially on RTTY. You'll hear, and then you'll hear kind of shh, 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 as the thing's rotating as it comes down. So that would give us the timestamp of the burst. Oh yeah, I should have done this first. I was intent on finding this thing. So yeah, so we have terminus up to 35. We can listen for the burst and get a timestamp for that. So we've got timestamp and altitude for the last point. We've got a timestamp, we won't know the altitude, we don't think. But that at least will give us, we can calculate the average ascent rate up to then. We can estimate the burst altitude. And then we can assume it's landing at 5 meters per second and see how that goes. So we can do on that third one there. We can fit the rest of the ascent one. If we listen for the loss of signal, so I went on AIC and asked everyone, when at least the guys close to the landing point, tell me when you lose the signal, because you're going to lose it 300 meters above the ground. I can extrapolate from that easily enough. And that will give me a timestamp and obviously an altitude for the end. So I can fill in the whole thing to some extent. Then we had a moment of luck where Steve's tracker, now Steve generally you send the when it sends a string, telemetry string, it'll send the highest altitude since the previous one rather than the current. When the idea with that is if you send a telemetry string just after burst, you will send the burst altitude rather than the current altitude, which would be a bit lower. And Steve's, I don't know what happened, and Steve doesn't know what happened, but it magically woke up and said, I hit 45,289 meters. Now, we're not going to put that in the record book because that's just a tracker claiming it. But now we had not only the burst time, but we had the burst altitude. So I could fit those into the predictor and plot the ascent rate with some precision. And of course, we had the landing time. By then we hadn't, but later on we had the landing time as well. So we had last known position from my tracker. We had the burst time by listening to it. So I just wrote down on a bit of paper after listening to the radio. We had the burst altitude as well, and we had loss of signal timestamp there. So I went back to the hub, just kept fiddling with, I put the burst altitude in. So you start with the current altitude there. I put in the burst altitude. I adjusted the ascent rate until the timing worked out for the burst, and then adjusted the landing speed until that matched as well. So basically, I filled in the rest of that plot. And that's what we got. So it's better than nothing. So Steve had another flight to do. So me and my wife got in the car and aimed for that. And I expected, so if we put a prediction in at the beginning of a flight based on what you think the field's going to be, you'll be within a few miles of the landing. And I thought, well, it's going to be a bit better than that, but I don't know how much better. Anyway, so we got there. There's a petrol station just here, and as we pulled into the petrol station, knowing that that's the prediction, and I thought, well, we're going to have to drive around probably an hour, drive around all the roads nearby. We pulled into the petrol station, and the radio started working. That's a bit of luck. So then the next thing was to try and decode the transmission. Is the tracker working now? No, it's not. It's still sending the same data it was sending an hour ago. So the next thing is to get a Yagi aerial out. Okay, that's jumping ahead. Get a Yagi aerial out and do some direction finding. So from here, I knew it was that away roughly, and then we drove up to around. There's a railway crossing there, so we parked up there, and we got a direction roughly this way as well. The issue was that we should have a satellite image here. That's all trees, all around there, and so it was about here. So and how to get there? So first off, I went from here. Just walked along. There's trees there. Getting here. I walked around the trees, and the problem is, everywhere you point, you get a signal because the trees are bouncing this signal around everywhere. So we couldn't find the tracker. So we went round this side and came down the railway line on this side. And again, you get points where it must be right in front of me. It's really bouncing strong. Problem is, those railway tracks make really good reflectors. So we had no idea, to be honest. I thought we must be on the railway track, so I went through the brambles and stuff, ripped my jeans apart, couldn't find it on the track, and eventually it was getting dark and I gave up. And then Steve went back the next morning. And now the problem is, I said to Steve, it's there. So Steve did the same as I did and got the same results, and it wasn't there. It's got to be. It's got to be in the trees. Yeah. And at one point, actually, I was walking along here, and I thought, maybe it's over here somewhere, and I just aimed the other way and got a decent signal, but I couldn't see the thing. But the problem was, you can't see. No, it wasn't as strong. It was much stronger this way. Yeah. The reason it wasn't as strong that way is because there's a slight incline here, and it was actually over the brow of a very slight hill. So looking at it directly, I had a weak signal. Looking at it the other way, it's bouncing off the trees above. Over my head. So it lied to both of us. So it's one for the record, for the brain cells, that one is. Steve, so you can talk about this bit?
Do you want to get the microphone back?
Yeah.
So I went there the next day, as Dave said, and had a look around, and because I'm sort of like predisposed to Dave's solution, I think, I assumed, yeah, it's in the same position. I'd taken my drone and flew it about, and but looking on a little screen, you don't see things like a little white dot in the middle of a field. So anyway, after a couple of hours, the tracker just packed up. It ran out of batteries. And I thought, well, that's it. I can't find it now. I don't know where it is. So I went home. The next day, the farmer rings up that owns the place and said, I found your bit of equipment in my field. Would you like to come and get it? So I did. I was amazed. I was absolutely amazed. And he told me where he'd found it. And then I looked back at the footage on my drone, because I'd recorded it all, and there it is. It's sitting there just in that area of the field. So actually, if this is the map, that is where the prediction said it would be. That is where Dave thought it was, and I thought it was. But actually, that little X there is where it actually. And that is like 100 meters.
Yeah.
So it was out 100 meters from the prediction or whatever you want. I'm amazed. I was just amazed by how accurate it was.
I mean, like I said, I thought I was going to have to drive around an hour for that. And it just shows that the errors you get between what you think is going to happen and what happens is not because the predictor's wrong. It's because you put in 5 meters per second, you get 5.3, it bursts 2 kilometers higher, all that stuff, or you launch it an hour later. Putting in all those data points that I had into the predictor gave us something that was quite good.
That's what I got back. So that's the inner balloon. That's the big balloon. You can see the size of the neck. I brought a neck with me if you want to have a look at it, and the valve. That's the valve, and this is the outer, what was left of the outer balloon. And there's about half of the outer balloon left. So as it goes up, it bursts, lets the inner balloon out, but you've got balloon, outer balloon remnants left, which are a sort of indeterminate size and weight, which makes the job of working out how much gas to put in it to get the maximum altitude very difficult, because you don't know how much outer balloon you're going to get left. And it's actually it's way heavier than the trackers.
It's about 800 grams, isn't it?
The outer balloon's about 800 or 900 grams. I think this was about half when we got half of that weight we got back. So this is the ascent rate graph. Again, you can see it's reasonably constant on the way up. That's where X2 packed went funny. So it's a bit strange. I reckon there's something goes on there. You can see there's sort of like a change in the pattern. So I'm wondering if it was something like a physical bash that caused it. I did notice somebody else had a similar problem with the U-blocks the other day. So I wonder if that's related. But, I feel, Dave feels, that we got that. I mean, basically, we know we got that. It just, we can't really claim it as a ARHAB record or something, because it's just, what the thing spat out. But if we didn't get that, we wouldn't have got it back, because it wouldn't have landed where it did. Anyway, so that was a year ago. And we decided we'd have another go this year, right? But we would go all out. We would work out how to maximise the altitude. So the way we did that was we decided to strip off the outer balloon because of the uncertainty of weight. We knew how much gas we wanted to fill in it, so we could take all that into account and to get like the maximum altitude. And we knew that as a result of doing that, this balloon would be 7 meters tall. So huge. And so we knew we would need still air in order to launch it.
7 meters, a small balloon will burst at 7 meters.
It's huge. Yeah, it's huge. It's as a starting point, it's like huge. So we knew we had to do it in the early morning, and that meant probably staying on site. So that meant camping at Ellsworth. So Dave and I camped out. And Julie. And set our tents at Ellsworth the night before, and Dave had a nice meal in the evening. Dave managed to, and Julie managed to put together for us. And the next morning, we filled the balloon.
I'll go back quickly, that's a good shot.
Do you want to? So that gives you a bit of an idea about how big that balloon is out of the inner balloon.
And the wind generally, not that there was much of it, is from the left of this photograph.
Yeah, we set up with the trees there. It was 2 or 3 mile per hour winds estimated. Mm.
Is the inner balloon loose inside the outer balloon, or do you have to sort of cut the outer balloon to get to the inner balloon? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
When
okay.
it's deflated, just to remove it, then
You just like sort of like
No, you can't. You can't just pull it out. No, you can't just put it out. If you were to try get it out, the only way you could get it out is to physically expand the neck somehow by forcing in an insert or something. I reckon that's how they put them in. They must force the necks open, drop them in, let the necks close around it. I can't think of another way of doing it, so I imagine that's how they do it. So this is a bit of a combination of time lapse and
but that's a
snap.
huge ground sheet.
That is, yeah, it's an 8 metre long ground sheet. Gives you an idea of sort of like both ends, starts at one end and finishes at the other. So this was an absolute perfect fill. No winds. We were walking, I was walking around in my socks on this ground sheet to make sure it was absolutely, spotless. Once we got on the ground sheet, we wouldn't come off it. And it was a dream. I mean, the size for the size of balloon, it was a dream fill really. It was no struggling against the wind. So here we go. It was sort of like a little bit of wind there, but they've held it back with gloves on.
You notice the panic and the extra ground sheets coming out.
Yeah.
Just in case.
So that gives you a bit of an idea of sort of scale. Dave takes another photo in a minute. Gives you the mystic weights, which we're not giving away. Another shot. Huge. So this is where we were about to launch it. Now the thing to note about here is, even though there's no wind there, as soon as we get that above the tree line, it really started to pour, and because of its size, and even like 2 and 3 mile per hour winds, it was getting to be a bit. I was a bit worried that the line was going to break because it wasn't that thick a line. But so that shows you how slack this balloon is when you launch it. And there it is in the next shot. You'll see it away. So off it went. We did, yeah. So, come back. And let's hang on, this back. Is it that one? No, sorry.
It's fine.
I've done something wrong. Okay. So, being that it was such a great launch, we thought we'd have a slap-up breakfast. We knew it was going to land reasonably close to have like a zigzag path. So we weren't that worried about, immediately chasing after it. So Dave and Judy cooked me a nice breakfast. It was lovely. And we were just sort of, patting ourselves on the back and how great it had been and how easy the launch was. And I think we were about to move. We were listening to the signal. We were about to move when it burst, and it burst at 40 something, I can't remember now, just a bit over 40 kilometres. So, what's that all about? This is PTE 2.
I expect the 1600 to go that high.
You can get higher with a 1600. You can see this is interesting. You can see it filling out there. So this is because it's slack at launch. It's very slow to start with, and then as it sort of like tightens up here, then you get like a more linear ascent rate. But no, we didn't get anywhere near what PT2 did. Burst early, landed not far away. We went and got it. It wasn't a complicated recovery. 40,877. So, well, okay, let's go back to that. Why? It's just luck of the latex, I call it. I mean, some balloons burst early, some burst late. I cannot explain a reason that would have burst early. other than it's just luck of the draw with balloons. Some balloons, you know, they're a distribution of burst altitudes. You might get lucky, you might get unlucky, and I think we just got unlucky with that one. So, as we've said, it's a pretty expensive shot. I think the balloons are now about, once you've imported them and paid the swinging exchange rate, they work out at about 1,500, and there's another £200 worth of gas in them. So you've got to want to do it. And then we've done 3. Right. So, although we have shared the costs and we have an interested party. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We've got an offer of, we have a definite offer for Crash for a sponsorship, but we can't really, they're going to want a record now.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. Yes.
Yeah, if we've got a record with it, we'd have taken the film. But,
Yeah. At the moment, we're... Yeah, there you go. We've got no immediate plans for another launch, but we are looking at stuff to get us higher, cheaper, I think, is the way I would put it. Got a couple of interesting possibilities there, which we won't talk about in any depth. But, yeah, we may go back to them, we may not. It's you know, we've pumped a lot of money in and not got anywhere as yet. I don't think anybody has, because, you know, not even Mark. So, and in fact, Mark's record is like 3rd place.
Yeah.
So, hey ho. Any questions? Other than, are you mad?
But if it's like, it can be sponsored, yes.
Right, onwards then. We're overrunning a bit, I guess, but how are we doing with that? So this is our last presentation of the day. Hopefully, Florian